Hello and welcome to our webinar today on how to use a checkbook control IRA LLC within your self-directed account to really supercharge and make yourself much more fluid on what you can do with your investments in your IRA account. So today's presentation will really focus on how you can get more control over your accounts and how you can potentially invest in a lot of different things using just one particular investment structure. My name is Scott Maurer. I'm the Director of Business Development here for Advanta IRA. I've been with the company since 2006, and over my time, I've seen a number of different individuals utilizing checkbook control as a means and a way to hold the different investments inside of their self-directed IRA account. If you have any questions for me after the webinar, you can email me or give me a call on the line here on this particular slide and call me directly. I'm happy to answer those questions offline. For anyone who is listening live, though, to the event today, there is a questions box on your GoToWebinar control panel. Please use that to call to let me know any questions you have as we go through the presentation. I'm happy to stop what I'm doing and answer questions as they come in, as they're pertinent to the information that we're discussing today. Just a quick disclaimer on Advanta IRA. So we do not provide investment advice and we don't endorse any particular products. The materials and information we're going to provide today are for educational purposes only. We do encourage you to consult with an attorney, an accountant, maybe financial advisors before entering into any type of investment, and especially when we're talking about the checkbook control today. Advanta IRA does not set up the LLC that we're going to talk about for you to use to get checkbook control over your account. We do recommend, although we do not require, we do recommend that you work with a CPA or an attorney or someone who has familiarity with that type of instrument, setting up and forming an LLC, and can certainly provide referrals for you to those individuals who would be able to help get the LLC started and established. If you're new to self-directed IRAs or maybe just Advanta in general, Advanta IRA has been around for almost 20 years, and we hold over $2 billion of assets under management. One of the really two differentiators we have, I think, from what we do on a daily basis with our clients, one is the educational component. We provide usually 1 or 2 webinars and learning opportunities per week. We also have a podcast that has an episode every week as well to give people information regarding self-directed IRAs, what it is that we do at Advanta, how you can utilize your accounts in different ways. And a lot of times we even bring in guest presenters and guest hosts to talk about their areas of expertise as well. So again, we're really committed to the educational component of our business and making sure our clients are as well informed as possible. We also provide every new account with an account manager, one person here, one point of contact for anything you need regarding your account, making your investments, or just questions as you maintain your account and your assets as you go along. Now, just talking very generally about self-directed plans and what accounts can be self-directed. Again, we're going to talk in a broader range today or about checkbook control. But in order to get checkbook control over an IRA account, you would need to have a self-directed plan. And a self-directed plan can be a traditional or a Roth IRA for individuals, or if you're self-employed, you may have a SEP or a simple IRA that you could utilize as part of your investment strategy. Other accounts that can be self-directed include our individual K plan, or also referred to by some individuals as a solo 401k. That is a plan for people who own their own businesses and do not have employees. You can utilize and take advantage of the benefits that are provided to 401k plans, but on a smaller scale, just for you and your business. In the non-retirement arena, we also offer health savings and education savings accounts. Again, most of what we focus on at Advanta we have is really the self-directed retirement plans, the traditionals, the Roth, the SEPs, the simples, and some of those former employer plans. The former employer plans can include old 401ks, old 403b plans, 457s, even the TSP or thrift savings plans for former government employees. All those monies, once you're a former employer once the account is held with a former employer, you can roll that money into a self-directed IRA and then open it up to some of the different investments we're going to talk about today. Now, a lot of people haven't heard of self-directed IRAs, or even those who have heard about it, wonder why they didn't hear about it sooner. And that's because most IRAs, most retirement accounts are held by banks and brokerage firms who offer you the investments and the products that they sell. So if you have an account with a Vanguard, you're going to be limited to the mutual funds that Vanguard will hold on their platform. But IRS regulations allow you to invest in a lot of different things, a much broader range of investment possibilities that we'll talk about here in just a few moments. So in order to invest in these different range of investments, you have to get your funds away from the banks and the brokerage firms who are offering you those limited investment products. And that's where Advanta comes into the picture of being a self-directed IRA administrator. We are happy to hold any investment that is permissible under IRS guidelines. The only things typically we don't handle are the brokerage assets, the mutual funds, the publicly traded stocks, bonds, things of that nature, where you can certainly utilize a Fidelity or a TD Ameritrade or someone like that to hold those assets. But we will hold those unique and different alternative investments, again, which we'll talk about a little bit today in the context of talking about the Checkbook Control LLC. And I mentioned your IRA can be used to invest in a lot of different types of investments. In fact, the rules as far as what you can or can't do only focus on the investments and the transactions that are prohibited under IRS rules. So instead of having a list of all the possible investments you could make within your IRA account, the IRS simply says there are a few different investments you cannot make, and there's a few different transactions and people that you cannot deal with as well. So the prohibited investments, the only investments you cannot make within your IRA account, regardless of who your custodian is, you cannot invest in life insurance or life insurance products, and you cannot invest in collectibles like antiques, alcohol, artwork, stamps, and coins. And those, we're talking about coins, we're talking about collectible coins. Unique or rare coins. There are some coins, for instance, the American Eagles and the Canadian Maple Leaf coins that are permitted to be held within a self-directed IRA because those coins, the gold American Eagles or the silver American Eagles and the Maple Leafs as well, the value of those coins are based on the trading value of the metal, not the fact that they are rare or are unique. And so there is an exception within the IRS code to allow you to hold precious metals inside of the IRA account. So the prohibited investments, you can't buy life insurance, you cannot buy collectibles. As far as the transaction, your IRA, or by extension, as we talk about the Checkbook Control LLC today, the IRA cannot transact or benefit certain disqualified persons within the particular, from the investments you made. So you may buy an investment, say in real estate, or do a private note, where that investment itself is allowed, but if there is a disqualified person that is transacting with the IRA or is getting a benefit from the IRA and from that investment, that can still make the investment prohibited as a whole. Now, the disqualified persons for your IRA account include yourself as the IRA owner, your spouse, your parents and grandparents, your children and grandchildren, as well as spouses of those lineal descendants as well. So it's basically for the IRA owner, it's straight up and down your lineal tree. It also extends to any business or entity that is owned or controlled by one of these people. And there can be some other unique situations of people who are disqualified as well. So for the purposes of our discussion today, when we talk about prohibited investments, the life insurance, the collectibles, or investing or doing a transaction with somebody who's disqualified, the important thing to remember is that, like I said, the IRA is prohibited from making these types of investments or transactions. If you set up a Checkbook LLC that we're going to talk about today, that Checkbook LLC is also bound by these exact same rules. So setting up an LLC does not then allow you to buy life insurance with your IRA funds. It does not allow you to then say buy a property that you want to rent to your children or to your parents, or a property that you want to personally live in. Using the LLC is not going to be a workaround of this particular structure. So yeah, keep in mind the rules as we move through the presentation today. Now, some examples of alternative assets that people hold within their IRA accounts. A lot of real estate probably makes up 60 to 70, 75% of our business, or the investments, I should say, that our clients hold are real estate in nature. Whether it's rental properties, could be a rehab property, could be some multifamily syndications, could be mortgage loans, tax liens and deeds, assignments, and then kind of outside of the real estate realm, private LLCs, hedge funds, startup companies, precious metals, foreign currency trading. There's again a lot of different things because again, all these the thing that all of these different types of assets on this slide have in common are they are not life insurance and they are not collectibles. So they're all permissible investments that you can hold inside of your IRA or potentially use the checkbook control structure to get much greater control and access to the funds in your IRA account. So these are some of the types of investments that we see at Advanta that our clients hold directly in their IRA. But again, a number of them hold these same assets within the Checkbook Control LLC structure that we're going to talk about today. And I think it's always important to understand kind of the motivating factors on why people invest in a certain way or utilize a certain strategy. The main reasons that people choose checkbook control, one, it's in the name of what we're talking about today. It is getting that control. Using an LLC allows you to move the funds from your IRA account into an LLC bank account that you can then write checks at your discretion to make investments, to maintain investments. If you buy a rental property, the checkbook control allows you to write that check out of the account to pay your vendors, someone who might be doing some work on the property. So it gives you that greater degree of control over the funds in your account rather than coming back to Advanta each time you need an investment made or you need a bill paid out of your account. I'm going to contrast the differences between that custodial account method and really the checkbook control account here in just a moment. Another reason why people choose checkbook control is it can reduce your fees that you pay to your IRA administrator. So at Advanta, we charge fees many times on the number of different assets that you have within your account. With a checkbook control LLC, we consider that asset as the singular asset within your account. So you only pay one flat annual fee for us to hold the checkbook control LLC. Even if that LLC goes and buys 5 different types of assets, to the IRA administrator, you are only paying that one annual fee based on the fact that the LLC is the single asset in the account. And another option, it's somewhat going a little bit with the control aspect, but it's also the flexibility of when you need funds quickly and being able to act more quickly to make an investment. So if you are looking to buy property, for instance, real estate or tax liens or tax deeds at an auction sale, when you're the successful bidder right there on the county courthouse steps, having a checkbook control allows you to immediately submit funds to make and complete that purchase. That can be a little more difficult to do directly through your IRA account. So that the checkbook control gives you greater flexibility in moving very quickly for investments rather than going through your IRA administrator who's going to have their own set of paperwork and documents that they need to complete for the investment. It's going to take a little bit longer. So we talk about checkbook control. Again, it's important as we go into the discussion today to talk about what the alternative is as well, because I want to make it clear, if you're looking to make an investment with your IRA account, it is not required that you use checkbook control. It can certainly make investments easier. It can give you more control, more flexibility like we just talked about, but it is not required to make an alternative investment that you use a checkbook LLC. You could use what I'm going to refer to during the presentation day as really the custodial or the administrative method, where the IRA administrator is going to hold title to the assets. They're going to hold your uninvested cash, and they are going to pay bills, make investments, all at your direction. So if you wanted to buy a piece of real estate using the custodial method, you would have to reach out to your IRA administrator, in this case Advanta, and tell us, I would like to purchase this particular property. We're going to go through the contract, the closing with you before ultimately sending money out of your account to make the purchase. Going forward, if you have a rental property, the rents are going to come back for deposit to directly into your IRA account. Any expenses related to that property, the tax bills, the insurance, etc., is going to be paid out of the IRA. That's going to be a role that we do here at Advanta IRA, receiving this money in, paying those bills out, again, certainly making sure that the investment is properly titled at the outset and handle the initial purchase. So there's obviously going to be a little bit more work because now you're putting a layer between you and who ultimately you're going to buy that property or make that investment through. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but it's also going to be a little more thorough We're going to make sure that documents, again, are properly titled and the money is following the right flow to avoid any tax consequences to you. So what we're, again, focus of today's webinar, though, is on the checkbook control. And this strategy, again, allows you to get personal control over that cash using a third-party bank account. So rather than having Advanta IRA hold your uninvested cash that you're going to then direct us to either put in investments or pay bills with, you would instead direct us to send that cash in your account to a bank account that you create for this Checkbook Control LLC. Then you, as the manager of that LLC, can issue your payments directly out of the account and receive and deposit income in and out of that third party, that bank account you have for the LLC as well. So rather than when you have that real estate that you want to purchase, you can just enter into a contract directly in the name of the LLC, and then you'll work with the selling agent, the attorney, whoever's involved in the closing, to get that property purchased and closed in the name of the LLC. And then going forward, you are the one issuing the money in and out of the particular account. So that's the difference, again, with the checkbook control. Really is going to be a speed. It can, in a lot of cases, be a speed issue where you can get things done more quickly than you would using the custodial method. But again, just want to reiterate that it is not required to use a checkbook control LLC to make any type of investment. The Advanta IRA can certainly hold that investment. It just might be a few extra steps and take a little bit longer to get that accomplished. So the next slide, I think it's good to understand kind of what goes on when you're using a checkbook control LLC as far as the duties for the assets that you own, in particular this particular account. So with the management of the LLC, signing documents, deciding how the LLC is going to be run. The LLC, that is the manager, and with the checkbook control, almost 99% of the time, the manager of the LLC is going to be the actual IRA owner and the client themselves acting in that particular role. If it's my IRA account, I want to be the manager. I want to be in control to not only decide the management of the LLC, but then also the check writing as well. That's going to be the key thing to being faster at what you're looking to invest in and make decisions more quickly, you acting as the manager, as the client. Now the assets, when you purchase the assets within the account, that's going to be named as the LLC itself. So whatever you decide to name your LLC is going to be who actually owns the particular assets that you decide to buy with the funds that are held in that particular account. Within this LLC structure, the IRA account will be the member of that LLC. As we talk about forming the LLC and the operating agreement here in a little bit, we'll go in a little bit more detail on how the IRA needs to read in those particular documents. Question just came in from someone on the webinar, and again, I encourage some more questions to come in as we go along. Someone asked, is minority control permitted? So you could have an IRA account where you could have a checkbook LLC where the IRA account is one of the owners and be owned along with other people inside that same LLC. So it wouldn't be kind of a pure checkbook control. It'd be really your IRA just investing alongside other individuals. And certainly if there's anyone there who has a minority interest in the LLC, if they're named as manager, then absolutely they would be able to have that control, and that would be permitted within the LLC rules. Another question just came in, is it allowable to have more than one check signer in the LLC? The answer is yes. If that makes things makes it easier for you to operate the LLC, then certainly you could have an additional person named as a check writer and basically have that account. That would be more of a question for a bank in that scenario when you're setting up the checking account for the LLC. Obviously, the manager is going to have that check writing authority. It would just be a question to ask the bank as to what they would need to see and allow to have somebody else act as an additional signer, but that certainly is permissible as well. Another good question just came in, can two checkbook control accounts combine to purchase real estate? Yes, you could. If you have two people who each have their own IRAs and have their own IRA LLC, then you could certainly have both LLCs buy the property together. We're going to move through the slides. A couple other questions coming in. I'll make sure we get to those as we go along, but keep those questions coming, and I'll make sure I do get them all answered before the end of the webinar today. Now, as we talk about the checkbook control LLC and the IRA, again, some key components, some key terms to keep in mind. Again, as I talk in the presentation today about a member of the LLC, the member within an LLC is a shareholder. It's an equity owner, someone who has ownership rights in that particular LLC and going to be, as a member and as a shareholder, rights to the profits from that particular LLC as well. As far as a manager, that is a person who is in charge, the decision maker. Kind of usually people call like a president of a corporation. A manager is the president of the LLC who's making those decisions, writing the checks, et cetera, on behalf of the LLC. So if I use the term manager, we're referring to an actual person. In this case, a lot of times the IRA owner themselves as an individual is the manager, while their IRA account as its own legal entity acts as the member of the LLC. And the operating agreement. The operating agreement is a document. This is the important thing that Advanta IRA will need to see. In order for your IRA to make an investment, really any investment, we have to be able to document what it is that your IRA owns, whether it's a real estate contract and a deed, or in this case with an LLC. The operating agreement for the LLC is the document that shows who the members are and their ownership percentage and how much capital they're contributing to that particular entity. Within a checkbook control LLC, typically the member is, again, the IRA account, and in most cases, it's 100% owner. So it's just the IRA putting in cash. They are the sole shareholder, the sole member, and the IRA owner personally acts as the manager or the president of the particular LLC. But this is all outlined in the operating agreement for the LLC. Now, the operating agreement is not the document that you file with the state. So if you're forming an LLC, no matter which state you choose to operate your LLC in, what you file with the state are typically the articles of organization that basically just establish the name of the LLC and who the manager is. The operating agreement is a separate private document. It is not filed with the state, but that's a document that will list the members and their ownership percentage. Within the operating agreement, the IRA is only listed as a member. The IRA cannot be listed as a manager or a managing member. The IRA is not capable of signing. It's still a legal entity, but it's not able to sign in that capacity and make those decisions. And if you personally are deciding to act as the manager, you cannot receive compensation for your role as manager. Some other rules on the Checkbook IRA LLC before we get into really how to form the LLC and what's involved in the different steps that are taken. Again, as I just want to reiterate and just mentioned a moment ago, the LLC has to be manager managed. Again, so that would be you typically as the IRA owner, or maybe someone else if you're allowing someone else to act as your manager. You can include more than just your IRA. So if you were looking at partnering on an investment with a number of individuals, it is possible for your IRA to own a portion of the LLC as a whole, and then have other ownerships for other members included in that LLC. But the ownership percentage within the LLC must be based on the contributions of all of the members. So if your IRA is putting in $25,000 of the total $100,000 of contributions, then your IRA would need to be a 25% owner in that particular LLC. If there's more than one owner, you have to be careful of adding additional funds. Typically, you want to make sure that those additional capital contributions must be made along those same ownership percentages as well. So forming the LLC. So one of the first step, aside from having your self-directed IRA account opened and funds transferred in, when you're ready to start the Checkbook Control LLC, the first steps of the process, one is filing the articles of organization, which I talked about a moment ago. You will typically file those articles of organization in the state where the LLC is located. Sometimes if you live out of state, you may file it in the state where the asset you're investing is located. There's really no requirement from an IRS perspective where you file your articles. The articles typically will list very, very basic information, the name of the LLC, the address, the manager's name. A lot of states require, I think most states require a registered agent somebody who lives or resides in the state who can receive service of process in case your LLC was ever the subject of a legal action. So that is something to keep in mind if you are looking at filing for an LLC outside of the state where you live, is you may need to have a registered agent who resides in that particular state to act in that capacity. The filing fees do vary wildly by state. The last time I checked and did a kind of a spot check of some of the different fees, range anywhere from $40 for an LLC on an annual initial filing to $500 a year. Most states you can file these articles online, and each LLC, not only does it have an initial filing fee, but you're going to have an annual fee going forward as well to keep your LLC active. So sometimes people will shop best rates by state, obviously on where you're looking to set up the particular LLC. But once the LLC articles have been filed, the next important step to get for your LLC is to get a tax ID number. Now, the reason you need a tax ID number is that in order to open up a bank account for your LLC, any bank is going to require to see not only the articles, but also you have a separate tax ID number to associate with the LLC itself. So that's you can typically get a tax ID online at irs.gov and look for form SS4. You can also file and obtain one by mail. If you do it online, in many cases, you can get that number almost immediately. But you will need to get a tax ID number for the LLC because that is something the bank is going to require for you to open up a bank account, which is going to be your third step. So use the articles and use that tax ID number to establish just a basic, simple LLC bank account. When you're setting up the checkbook control and you're talking to the bank, I would not mention that the funds for the LLC are coming from your IRA account. I would simply say, hey, I have to form this LLC. I need to deposit some funds into it. I'm the manager of the LLC. Here are my articles. Here's my tax ID number. And it can be whatever bank you wish. If you would like a bank that is familiar with the checkbook control structure, Advanta does have a couple of banks that we know that are more familiar with this type of structure and this type of investment. We can always give you their names and that information. Like I said, most banks do not have an issue with this. Every now and then we do have clients who will come back to us and say, hey, I tried to open up this checkbook control account and my bank is now asking me lots of questions. We're happy to talk to your banker as well and kind of walk them through exactly what is it you're doing when it comes to that. So when you're filing the LLC articles, again, most states require when you name your LLC that the states require that either LLC or LC appear in the title and the name of your particular entity. So if I wanted to create an LLC, titled Real Estate Investments, I would be Real Estate Investments LLC would be the actual name. Now, if you are using an IRA account, so if you're setting up this LLC for the checkbook control for your IRA account, do not include Advanta or IRA in the name of the LLC. So your LLC could be something else completely different. It doesn't have to even be related to what you're doing with the LLC, but do not, if you're using your IRA account, include our company name or the letters IRA in the name of the LLC. If it's something you've done in the past, if you've included IRA, it's not that big a deal. I just typically advise people to try to leave that out of the name of the LLC. Again, as I mentioned, each state is going to require you to have a registered agent that's physically located in the particular state, so make sure you have that. You can act as a registered agent as well. If it's your IRA account and you're setting up an LLC in the state where you live, you can name yourself as both manager and also as registered agent. It comes down to the management. Again, the articles are going to need to reflect who the manager is of the LLC, the person who's going to sign documents, make decisions, etc. And the manager is typically not required to live in the state. So a lot of people, for example, will like to set up LLCs in Wyoming or Nevada or Delaware or something like that, even though they don't live there. You can still name yourself as manager. You're just going to have to find a registered agent who is physically in that state to serve in that capacity. Again, when you're forming a checkbook control LLC for your IRA account, you cannot list the IRA as the manager of that particular LLC. So it has to be a manager-managed LLC, in which case a physical person is named as the manager. Had a couple other questions pop up. I'll get those answered, and hopefully a couple more questions coming in as we go along. Question said, will I be able to use the LLC to open an account with Kraken.com to purchase Bitcoin and other crypto? I don't know specifically about Kraken. I would definitely check into the provider, whatever crypto provider you're looking at purchasing, to make sure they will accept an LLC as an owner on their platform. I know it's been years since I looked into it, but at one point there were some different crypto providers and platforms that would not allow for LLCs to be owners on their particular platform. So as long as Kraken will allow an LLC to have an account on their platform, then you could certainly use the LLC that you're creating for your IRA to do so. Another question, following up on one we saw earlier, can I invest in a business in which a family member has minority ownership? That's a tricky question. If you're looking to have your IRA invest into an existing entity in which a family member, again, if I'm assuming maybe somebody who is disqualified, has a minority ownership, that is a question where you would need to probably get some legal advice or tax advice as to how much ownership they have and what kind of level of control. I have seen some clients make an investment like that, and I've seen others walk away from that depending on the total ownership that that family member has. So again, great questions so far. Keep them coming as we go through the second half here of this webinar. So we talked about forming the LLC with the state, which is completing the articles of organization. Again, that is a publicly recorded document. So anyone, if you're looking to do business with an LLC, can look up online in that particular state if this LLC is valid, if it's still open, if it's still operating, and who the manager is. So that's a public document. Again, the IRA account does not get reflected anywhere on the articles of organization. The other document though that I said that Advanta would need to see is the operating agreement for the LLC itself. So the operating agreement is going to be the document that reflects who the owners are, how the LLC is going to be run, any other various provisions. I mean, I've seen operating agreements that were 3 or 4 pages long. I've seen others that were 30 to 40 pages long. It really depends on obviously who's putting that operating agreement together. But Advanta IRA, we do not have a requirement for a specific kind of operating agreement. We would need to see a couple of things at a minimum that any operating agreement contains. And so if it's a 4-page operating agreement and it contains all of these items, then that works for us. Certainly, if you were to use an attorney or a CPA, they should be providing you with this operating agreement. We've also had people use online services, online providers to get an operating agreement. But at a minimum, regardless if you're doing it yourself, you're using an attorney or using a company like LegalZoom, at a minimum, the operating agreement should include the date of the agreement itself, kind of what date are we entering into this and forming this operating agreement, the name of the member, which would be the self-directed IRA. Again, the IRA is the owner, so within the operating agreement, the IRA has to be reflected as the member of the LLC. The operating agreement should also list who the manager of the LLC is, and the manager, again, in most cases with the checkbook control structure, is the account owner themselves. The LLC operating agreement will list that there's a limited liability of the members and managers with what goes on. The operating agreement probably will include how any new members may be admitted to the LLC, how you could remove members from an LLC. It's typically with the checkbook control, you're not adding anybody new and you're not removing, but there's some provisions that can appear. It's probably giving it some kind of outline on the voting procedures, the taxation of the LLC, which I'll talk about here in just a moment, and there should be a spot for the members and the member and manager to sign the operating agreement. So if your IRA, if you're forming a checkbook control LLC for your IRA to invest through, Advanta will sign the documents, the operating agreement, as the member of the LLC. So your IRA is listed as the member. Advanta IRA then signs on behalf of your IRA as the member, and then if you are the manager of that LLC, you would sign in that role. Now, as far as the taxation of the LLC, typically with the checkbook control structure, because the IRA account is the member and it's a single member entity, there is no other member other than the IRA account, typically the taxation of the LLC is that of a disregarded entity. So the disregarded entity for tax purposes means all of the income that's generated flows through the LLC to the member, which in this case is the IRA account, And an IRA does not file a tax return except in very rare circumstances. So with the LLC, the pure checkbook control structure, if it's a single member entity, there is no tax filings that are required on an annual basis for your LLC. Now, if your IRA does, though, enter into a partnership kind of with other people involved in this same LLC, now you would have a partnership for tax purposes, and it may be required that you have a partnership tax return at that time for your LLC. But for the pure checkbook control LLC, again, it's a typically a disregarded entity for tax purposes with no tax return then ultimately due for the LLC as well. Now, when you make the investments, again, when you're maintaining the checkbook LLC, it's any investments that you buy and purchase with the cash in the account is going to be, again, titled in the name of the LLC. So if you're buying a piece of real estate, the name of your LLC will be the buyer's name on the contract. As manager of the LLC, that's one of your responsibilities to make sure that the title of the investments are correct, and then ultimately issuing funds out of the account from your LLC bank account to make the investments itself. It's your responsibility as the manager as well to make sure you have proper bookkeeping records. So this isn't a situation where if you're using the custodial method that we talked about earlier, Advanta is maintaining the bookkeeping records for the assets that you hold using the custodial method. If you decide to use the checkbook structure, then you do need to make sure that you are keeping very good records on the money going into the account and out of the account as well. So whether you're buying assets, whether you have rental income coming in, whether you're paying bills, you want to make sure you have very good records of that activity. We do require every year that you report to us the value of the LLC as a whole. That is the one item thing that we have to report to the IRS on an annual basis is the total value of your account. And since you've moved in using the checkbook control, you've moved the cash from the IRA account into the LLC's bank account, we no longer know what that value is after that initial purchase. So you would have to report the value of the LLC, which would include the value of any of the holdings. If you have like two pieces of real estate and a bank account, then we would need to know what the two pieces of real estate are valued at and the bank account, so we can use that one figure as the current value of your LLC and do the reporting then to the IRS as well. Typically, the earnings, when you're using the checkbook structure, the earnings simply come back and stay within the LLC that you could then use them to, you can use that cash to make other investments. Or if you wanted to take any distributions at that point, you would just send some of the cash back to us. And I'll have a slide here in a moment that shows the flow of the money when you look to take a distribution from your account. So purchasing that, again, getting this checkbook is, to recap the last couple slides, getting this started is fairly simple. It's filing the articles, getting your operating agreement drafted, and then ultimately directing Advanta to send the cash from your IRA into this particular checkbook LLC's bank account. If you need to get an IRA started, obviously there'd be the process of filling out the paperwork to establish your IRA and getting funds transferred or rolled over from your other custodians. But then ultimately, once you get the LLC articles formed with the state, you get the operating agreement drafted, we then send the funds out of your account into the LLC's bank account that you now control as the manager of the LLC. Again, the pure checkbook control typically is the IRA account just by itself. If it's my IRA, my IRA is a single member and I'm the manager. But I've mentioned a few times already, it is possible to partner funds with your IRA account inside of an LLC. So you could involve, say, a husband and wife both using their IRA accounts. You could use your IRA and a friend's personal funds or a couple other people and combine all of that into one LLC. It's called partnering with your IRA account, which again is also possible using the custodial method. Just makes it a little bit more difficult and cumbersome rather than using an LLC. When an IRA does partner up within a checkbook control structure or even outside of the checkbook control structure, the IRA must receive its appropriate share of income and also pay its portion of expenses. Again, using an LLC can make that much easier. You can have your tenant, for instance, in a rental property, send just one rent check back to the IRA, back to the LLC account, and then the LLC can distribute income to all of the different members as it wishes. If you're using the custodial method in a partnership, you might have to have the tenant send multiple rent checks for a portion of the rent to each individual partner. So that's why with the multiple parties, the LLC does make it less cumbersome and easier to manage those types of investments. So moving cash from the LLC. So if you wanted to take a step back, you've used the checkbook control, you got it set up, you move funds from your IRA into the LLC account, the LLC bought real estate, you have a cash flowing asset, the cash is now flowing back into the LLC account, and you wish now to actually use some of that money personally as a distribution. What is the right way to move cash? So the first step would be if you want to take a distribution, so you have cash sitting in your LLC bank account, and you would like to use some of that cash personally as a distribution from your IRA, do not take money out personally directly from the LLC. The IRS could look at that payment from the LLC to you as a prohibited transaction inside your IRA account that your IRA is paying you directly, and that could violate and deem your entire IRA taxable. So do not send money directly from the LLC to you personally. You would want to first send that money back to Advanta for deposit into your IRA account as dividend or income from the LLC. We put that money into your IRA. You then complete a distribution form with us to take that money out of the account, and we turn around and then send that money back to you personally, and we will issue the 1099 on an annual basis to you for that distribution. That is the proper way to handle getting cash out of the LLC and into your personal hands. That way keeps the IRS happy that you did not take that money out just personally directly from the LLC. You went back through the custodian, Advanta, who's then going to do all the reporting that's required for that particular event. I know it seems like a little bit of a hassle. It's kind of you're sending money to us and then we're in turn sending it back to you, but it's definitely well worth it for the little bit of hassle you would go through in doing that to avoid any potential issues with the IRS. A question came in, says, going back to the valuation question that we have to provide a value every year, how does one establish the value of real estate on an annual basis? Is it based off of personal opinion, broker opinion, appraisal, etc.? So for the annual valuations of real estate within an account, we do not require an appraisal, but it cannot simply be your personal opinion. You can certainly use a broker, real estate agent, to give you their broker's opinion. We do allow people to use the property tax assessor's value. So if you just get a property tax bill from the county where the property is located, we can use the value on there. The requirements for the valuation of the property that it be done by a qualified and independent third party. So you'd want to get that property valuation from someone else other than you, but it does not have to be an appraisal, a formal appraisal that you pay for. Next question came in, said the partner's account allowed, so the different type of IRA accounts, Roth and traditional, can be combined into one Checkbook LLC. So I think what this question is, if an individual has Roth IRA funds and you also have traditional IRA funds, can you use those funds together inside one Checkbook LLC structure? And the answer is yes. You could use both the traditional and the Roth funds. They would each be listed as separate members in the LLC, and you would have to list out exactly what percentage ownership each IRA has within that particular LLC. So it is possible to do that. Again, the caveat now is you do have when you combine your Roth and traditional funds into one LLC, you will now have two members, and two members in the LLC now means you have a partnership, which means you now have a partnership tax return that is due on an annual basis for the LLC. Now, because both members are IRA accounts and there is no tax consequence to the IRAs, you won't actually owe any tax, but you do have to file the return on an annual basis. So kind of looking at the pros and cons of either the custodial method versus the checkbook control. Now, obviously using the custodial method, or in this slide says buying through the IRA directly, it's easier to keep an arm's length from the funds, so you'll be less likely to engage in a prohibited transaction. If you're using your LLC and you forgot that you can't buy collectibles, or you forgot that you couldn't lend yourself money, or you couldn't buy real estate that you want to live in, going through Advanta is going to help you avoid that transaction, because we would identify that you're looking to buy a collectible. That's not allowed. Or you're looking to lend yourself money. That's not allowed. Also, we have clear records of all the activity within your IRA, all of the income that's been generated back to the account. we'll have a statement. You can run a statement in a matter of moments that shows all of the income back into your IRA as well as all expenses that have been paid by your IRA for that particular property. Obviously, the downside of using the custodial method, the potential for more administrative fees. If you were buying multiple assets, then you're going to pay a fee for each different asset that you hold. And there's also no ability to write those checks for purchases. If you're looking to buy, again, courthouse steps or an auction or just doing a deal where something needs to happen very quickly, the LLC is going to give you that flexibility that can be a little more difficult. With Advanta, we're probably going to have at least a 2 to 3 day processing time when you go to make an investment. The pros of using the checkbook control, again, we've talked about it throughout the presentation, a quick access to the funds, lowering your administrative fees. One thing we didn't mention so far, but using an LLC, people use LLCs in all walks of manners of business, whether it's IRA investing, whether it's starting their own personal business. LLCs in general can give you some asset protection, and you can also get some anonymity when you're buying assets and you're buying purchases. That the owner of the asset is just the LLC and not the name of your IRA, which would contain your individual name. The downside, I think the biggest downside of using the checkbook control is that the IRA owner is now responsible for all the record keeping and all the bookkeeping, and that's where your potential issues can arise in the future. If the IRA ever decides to, or the IRS, I should say, ever decides to audit you or audit your IRA accounts, you need to be able to show accurate records for that particular LLC. So if you're someone who does not keep good records on a personal basis, checkbook control may not be the best strategy for you. Again, additionally, it can be easier to do something that's prohibited, and there's also that lack of oversight by the administrator as well. Another couple questions came in. Someone says, can the single checkbook LLC convert to partners later? So if you do form a checkbook LLC with just your IRA account, it may be possible to add partners later, but it would have to be partners and individuals who are not disqualified. So if my IRA owned that property, owned the LLC 100%, and I wanted to then personally put cash in and become a partner, that would be prohibited because I am a disqualified person. I could not then add personal money into that same LLC. Now, if it was my IRA checkbook LLC and I wanted to bring in a friend of mine into the deal, then it would be possible because that friend is not disqualified for my IRA to sell a portion of the LLC ownership to that third party as a partner and add that person in later. Another question said, can you dig a little deeper into the Advanta fee structure for checkbook IRA? So again, I mentioned on this, even looking at this slide, you're holding more assets in the IRA with a lower fee. So at Advanta, we charge a flat fee under one of our options of $295 a year to hold an asset. So if you're looking to buy 2 or 3 assets with your Advanta account, it's 2 or 3 times that $295. If you are using the checkbook LLC, we consider that LLC just one investment and therefore subject to only one $295 a year fee. So even if that LLC owns 3, 4, 10 different assets, you're only paying $295 a year for us to hold that one particular LLC. So that's where you will see the savings on an annual basis with the fee structure. So really, what is the best strategy for you? Really consult with your attorney or CPA or other advisor to really decide which is the best way for you to hold your assets. We can go over some of the pros and cons like I've done today, or if you have other questions on an individual basis. We just can't tell you should buy an asset this way or you shouldn't buy it a different way. A lot of clients do just simply have Advanta hold an asset and allow us to do record keeping. I would caution for some individuals out there. Now, if you're looking to buy rental properties where you have a lot of money going in and out of the account, for rental income and to pay bills, etc., the LLC certainly makes more sense in a lot of those scenarios. I have seen people though kind of be sold on the checkbook strategy for everything they're doing. When if your only investment, if you're looking to make one investment into a private partnership, like a private real estate syndication where they send one check per quarter as income and that's the only real activity, I don't think an LLC makes a lot of sense in that scenario. You can have your IRA simply hold the asset, have us do the record keeping, and have that quarterly dividend check just come back to the IRA account with us. And to me, the LLC would just add to your expense and add a layer of complexity that really isn't necessary in that regard. It is possible, though, keep in mind, it is possible to switch between strategies later on. So if you buy property, buy some real estate through the IRA and the custodial method, and you decide to do an LLC at a later date, we can always sign deeds or assignments to transfer title over into the LLC account and move your cash over if you decide to go with that route later. Or conversely, you start with the Checkbook LLC and it just doesn't make sense anymore. You can assign the assets out of the LLC just into the IRA account and have us manage it going forward. We just cannot really provide the counsel really and tell you which way you should or shouldn't go with the checkbook structure. Again, so some of the key things to take away, I mean, the checkbook control is certainly a great strategy for many investors. It really, for some people, it's freed them up and to hold a lot of different types of assets in a lot of different ways. And so for many people, it has turned out to be a great strategy. There are considerations for setting up the LLC with the forming the articles, getting the tax ID, et cetera. And again, that might be where an attorney or a CPA, for somebody who's not as familiar with these structures, those professionals would be able to assist in getting that done. And once you have set up the checkbook structure, if you want any personal money out of that account, so you have cash in your IRA and you're over the age of 59 and a half and you'd like to take a distribution, just make sure it goes back through Advanta IRA as the account administrator to then properly distribute it to you and properly report that to the IRA itself. So just make sure if you're using a checkbook structure now, or if you're going to use one in the future, that when you're ready to use that money personally, make sure that money gets transferred back to us first, and then we can issue the proper distribution and handle the reporting to the IRS. So if you have any other questions here as we wrap up the webinar, make sure you get those typed into the question box. If you're interested in learning more really on checkbook control or just self-directed IRAs in general, I'd invite you to go to our website. We have a lot of our events listed, the seminars, the webinars that we do, any networking events we have are listed on the events page of our website. All of our events that we host are free to attend, whether it's live in person, whether it's the online events, they're always free. We also have a great video library, so the recording of the webinar that you heard today, if you're listening live and wanted to go back and hear it again or hear something again that you heard, it's going to be up on our YouTube page, which you can click and navigate to from our homepage at advantaira.com. Click on the YouTube logo at the bottom of the page. All of the webinars that we do are recorded and placed on our video library for people to go back and listen to at a later date. We also do have some great blog articles and some other great information on our website as well. So if some of you are looking to get started, again, it's a matter of, I said, yes, if you have an account already, you're starting on the process of doing the LLC documents. But if you don't, you can fill out an application to get an account opened, get funds transferred or rolled over from your old employer plan or your other IRA account. And then the last step will be to start working on that checkbook control structure, forming the LLC itself, getting a bank account, getting a tax ID number, etc. So like I said, I'll leave the last part open here for a couple questions as they come in. I had one just pop in right now. Someone says, currently I have a self-directed IRA, and after I set up a checkbook control, do I need to pay administration fee for both accounts? So going back, I guess, kind of the other question, we do charge fees on a per account basis. So if you're using a checkbook LLC structure and you have both Roth IRA funds and traditional IRA funds in that particular LLC, we do require and charge a fee for each account. We do have to do separate reporting for both accounts on an annual basis. If you are setting up checkbook control for a traditional and a Roth, for example, you will have that $295 fee for each of those two accounts. And that's unfortunately with Advanta, we can't combine funds and just say, hey, you have one massive self-directed account. We do have to separately record keep and track and report on each different IRA account that you have. I don't see any other questions coming in at this time. So again, I would say if you have a question after the webinar, again, if you're someone who listened to the recorded version of this webinar, please reach out to me on an individual basis. My phone number and email address are here on this final slide. Any questions that you have for me on getting an account started, what's involved with transfer and rolling over funds, etc., reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer those questions for you and get you started. Or like I said, you can always visit our website at advantaira.com. So again, I want to thank everybody for attending the presentation live today. And we'll look forward to talking with you. Anyone who's listening to the recorded version, please reach out to us with any other questions that you have. Thank you.